Clorinda Takes Flight by Robert Kinnerk. Clorinda, the cow, took the sun now and then in the back of a friend's house. The farmhand named Lynn, when Swallow swooped by, though she leaped up to follow, she raced past the barn, out the gate, down a hollow. Oh, to fly, what a delight, what a treat, what a thrill, she cried as she reached the tip-top of a hill. Goodbye, graceful swallow, how sweetly you soar. I've never, not once in my life, soared before. But I want to be free like you birds in that sky, and I promise you now that I will learn to fly. Clorinda ran straight to her friend, the pig Hop. She said, I must fly. But Pig told her, stop, we all want to fly. It's a dream we all share. But please, my good friend, a cow in the air? You haven't got feathers, Clorinda, nor wings, and to fly, I assure you, requires such things. Clorinda's eyes brightened. She said, please explain why a cow isn't able to fly her own plane. What plane? Asked the pig. He was clearly not thrilled. But the cow very cheerfully said, one we'll build. She danced to her truck with her face all aglow, so happy the pig couldn't bear to say no. I knew I could count on you, Hop, said the cow, and Lenny will help us. I'm sure he'll know how to cope with a problem if one should arise. Like you, my good friend, Lenny's kind and he's wise. They drove to the dump and found boxes and cases that they thought they could use for the struts and the braces. The wheels that they needed they couldn't find cheap, so they borrowed a pair off of Lenny's old Jeep. To cover the wings and the long fuse latch, they stripped the tin roof off of Lenny's garage. The motor they got from Len's washing machine, after first making sure all his laundry was clean. And finally the friends, with some turns on a screw, got the prop fastened on, and with that they were through. Len, Hop, and the cow made a very good team. The guys kept her working, and she helped them dream. That's a pretty cool airplane, if I must say so myself. Time for the test flight. Let's put on our goggles, Clorinda declared as Hop wiggled the toggles. Len cranked the engine. It gave a loud cough. They roared through the garden, and then they took off. I didn't think it was gonna go. Cool. Hooray, cried the cow as they flew through the skies. Her co-pilot whimpered and covered his eyes, for the wings had come loose and so had the rudder. The plane gave a wheeze and it started to shudder. Downward they plunged, but by some lucky stroke, the plane came to rest at the top of an oak. Poor Hop, he was gasping and clutching his heart. Clorinda, he said, I believed from the start your dream was delightful but slightly unsound, and that creatures like us ought to stay on the ground. Clorinda said sadly, I guess that is true. Flight is a thing that a cow cannot do. And yet, observed Len as he helped them descend, your plane did take off, so I'd say, as your friend, your goal was achieved. You guys did it, you flew. Well, murmured Hop, I suppose that is true. Clorinda cried, "Bravo! Hip-hop, hooray!" With the pig's help and Lynn's, she was well on her way to planning the next flight and then several more. "What helpers," she said. "This is what friends are for." That's right. Friends are to help us with everything. They constructed a rocket. The rocket went poof. But that didn't matter. The friends wouldn't quit. "A copter," they cried. They all worked nonstop. It went with a roar, and it came down with a plop. Then over the barn rose a glorious moon. It was round. It was full. It was like a balloon. "A balloon," the cow shouted. "That's perfect." "Oh, wow." "Yes," cried the pig. "Let's get started right now." There on the wash line are clothes of all sorts. We can make our balloon out of socks, sheets, and shorts. "A balloon," observed Lynn. "As you may be aware, in order to rise, it will need lots of hot air. With glasses and mirrors, the air could be heated." They worked until dawn, when the job was completed. The magnified light Lynn supplied did the trick. The balloon filled with air, and Clorinda said, "Quick!" Into the basket she clambered aboard. Hop squeezed in behind her, and upward they soared. "Where's Lynn?" they both said as they rose in the sky. Lynn was still on the ground. He was waving goodbye. In all their haste about what they would do, they'd forgotten to wait until he climbed in too. That isn't very kind. They were only thinking about themselves getting in the air, huh? Through cloud banks and rainbows, past ravens and cranes, they flew over mountains and rivers and plains. Their hearts swelled with joy in the wide immense sky. "Oh, hop," Clorinda sighed. "It's so lovely to fly." That's a beautiful hot air balloon too. New York and the ocean both sped by, and then they heard the rich chimes of the famous Big Ben. That's in London. The Big Ben of England. In the crowds down below, people yelled, "Splendid and jolly good show." They heard drums, fifes, and trumpets, and bagpiping men. Clorinda said sadly, "We should have brought Lynn. This concert is something he'd love to attend. It's great fun for us, but I do miss our friend." As for Lynn, in his dreams he had never foreseen that his friends would appear on the news with the Queen. The Queen told them, "Bravo, never before have a cow and a pig ballooned to our shore. So kneel, noble heroes, while we with our sword grant you both knighthood. Now name your reward." Ooh, I wonder what that's gonna be. The cow thought and thought. The pig scratched his head. They whispered a moment, then both of them said, "Our helper was Lynn, and how happy he'd be if we could bring back him some of your tea." "How kind," said the Queen, "that you've thought of your friend. As for me, I must say, I am delighted to send through you to this Linny the very same tea he'd get if he came for a chit-chat with me." With that they said thanks, and for the lengthening shade, warned both of the friends that the day would soon fade. I really like this book. Her Majesty's staff helped them load and untie, and cheered as they watched the balloon climb the sky. Heading west, ever west, over seas laced with foam, they caught sight at last of their own farmland home. There Lynn, with a welcoming cheer, lent a hand and helped them touch down on the best place to land. They gave Lynn a hug, then the cow, with a grin, presented the tea in its decorative tin. They promised their friend that the next time they flew, they'd take him along so he'd meet the Queen too. But he'd love that, huh? And under the stars in the moon's silver beams, they talked of adventures, of friendships and dreams. The end. Again, that's Clorinda's Flight by Robert Knirk. Oh.